Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chorizo Show. Joseph back at it again with yet another book review. Let me go ahead and start this video off with a quick thank you. A big thank you to everybody that watched our anniversary episode, everybody that's been chiming in and watching my book reviews that I'm doing kind of on a solo thing. We really appreciate you guys. I was looking through some of the comments on our anniversary episode, and shout out to Matt. Thank you so much. But shout out to everybody. We felt a lot of love on that video, and we hopefully made you feel the same way. There's a lot of appreciation from our end. We talked about it right after filming. It was like there's some pretty cool movies and books that we've talked about, and people coming in and just kind of hearing our opinion. That in it, on its own is really really fun. So thank you so much for those of you that have been joining us for these. And I think it's time to bring it back to basics a little bit. I wanted to come on here. I finished Ham on Rye not that long ago, and I wanted to come in and talk about the book and how much I enjoyed it and whatever. We're supposed to be bringing you a Clockwork Orange very, very soon. Jeremy and I are going to be kind of doing that one. So, but for now, we're going to be talking about Ham on Rye by Charles Bukowski. So, Charles Bukowski was a counterculture icon way back in the day, and he's got sort of a legacy. Now, this is one of those authors that one discovers he stands out because he doesn't write like most writers. This is somebody who writes in a very conversational way. He's almost just retelling some things that he's gone through, sort of letting you fill in the blanks on how you're supposed to feel about these things. So that is a really unique way to look at things. It's like here's what's going on, here's the dialogue, here's what's being said, here's the action around the scene, and then you're supposed to walk away from it feeling a certain way or being surprised that our narrator, our protagonist, feels a different way than you would have thought towards the end, because he'll clip the chapter off with, you know, and yeah, and he was my best friend that year, or yeah, he was a good guy, or something like that. But there'd be like this really poignant scene of somebody getting bullied or a huge fight happening, and like you're thinking, man, these are kids and or young people. You know, he grows up throughout this, and he really like lets you fill in the blanks. And I'm a big proponent of that. For those of you that know, sort of when I start kind of tuning out of stories or whatever, when the character doesn't behave in a way that makes sense to them, and when it's explaining too much and like telling me how I'm supposed to feel, I don't like that. I think a lot of us readers don't really care for that, right? And Bukowski, he doesn't make it mysterious. He more so just, like I said, says the thing and lets you feel how you're going to feel about it, and that's kind of the point. So I really appreciated that, right? Now, this story is written through the perspective of Charles Bukowski's like alter ego. It's almost like a pseudonym. He goes by Henry Chinaski. Now, he's a recurring character in several of Charles Bukowski's novels, and he's sort of a stand-in for Bukowski himself, obviously the alter ego thing, but it's semi-autobiographical, right? So you very much get the feeling that he's sort of working through his feelings about like his father, his feelings on growing up, and feeling like he stood out for several reasons. The way he looks, he feels very self-conscious of. There's some stuff about like acne and boils on him that he really struggles with, and man, that those chapters are rough. Being a child and being introduced to like alcohol really early on, being introduced to inappropriate like sexual things that you shouldn't really be exposed to as a child, and him not really knowing how to work through it. The way his friends talk to each other, like when it comes to like how they are interested in girls and whatever, and they would, some of them are, because this is what like young men do, young kids do, they exaggerate and they make up stories and they lie, and so they always want to be like tougher than they are, and they want to be the kid that, you know, hooked up, you know, with a girl before everyone else. And so I felt that to be very realistic in terms of how Bukowski chose to write it, and it does feel like that really happened. It does feel like he was with his buddies, and you know they would use racial slurs at each other and fight and talk about their escapades, and it's like, it's like, come on, man, these are kids. It's so like, it's so funny. It's like, that's what I like about it, is it's extraordinarily funny, but it's very sad at the same time. I think there's a quote on the front of the book here. Let me just check this out. There's a real poignancy in the people encountered in Bukowski's work. Yeah, couldn't have said it better than that. And that's on the front. So there really is this exploration of emotional feelings. Big moments happen in his life, and sort of trying to work through the emotion of that. Now, one of the big moments for me that I was like, wow, that's, I really like understand why he feels the way he feels, was, he struggles with, I mentioned the boils and the acne earlier, like being in ROTC, and like he would be cleaning his gun, and like they're doing the flips and the whatever with the gun, and then it would open up a boil on his shoulder, and then there just dark stain would come out, and the instructor would see it and be like, hey, you got gun oil on your shirt, go clean it up. And he just doesn't explain to this guy, like, yeah, my body's covered in open sores. And then it gets to a point where he gets wrapped up in bandages. He's almost explaining what it feels like to be a monster, looking, but the way he says it, it's like, that's the poignancy, that's the sadness, that's the, man, that's got to be a rough emotional arena to be in. But then he sort of goes, well, I was actually quite comfortable there. I could be isolated and nobody was going to fault me for that. I could be separate and alone. And he keeps talking about how he likes to be alone. And he clips every chapter with that, oh, so and so was he was a good guy, or he'll explain somebody and kind of talk about how they look. There's always a sentence when he describes a new character that he's coming up against, or there's going to be a character in this chapter that there's always, male, female, doesn't matter, always an explanation on how that person looked. And I noticed it, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're supposed to kind of describe what the scene looks like, what the people around you look like, if a character's tall or whatever, and or muscular or skinny or whatever the thing is. That's not uncommon. But why this stuck out for me was because it sort of felt like whenever he was explaining what somebody looked like, there was always not just the description of them, but his interpretation of it, where he'd look at him, he goes, yeah, Mike, whatever, yeah, he was real handsome, and it didn't come from like a being attracted to them way. It more so made me think, this is somebody who he grew up feeling like he didn't fit in his own skin. He felt like he was ugly. And, if you look at what Charles Bukowski looks like, you can understand why he feels that way, because he's got this sort of unusual, like, apish kind of look in his face. That description of people and being like, oh, yeah, they were really good looking. And this comes up constantly, right? It almost feels like, because that's how he thinks people look at him. It's almost like the reversal. Like he's projecting that out because that's how he felt kind of going through life. And when he would mention that he would have a friend or somebody he spent the summer hanging out with or whatever, even though he didn't want to, because it was another outcast or whatever, you kind of understand that. And then he clips it with that, oh, when they were my best friend, or, oh, he says all this stuff that seems very neutral or almost negative about them. But then he'll finish it off with, I really like them. That they were a good guy. And again, that's that self-conscious thing. And again, he's young in this kind of version of talking about people changes when you see Henry Chinaski in the other books when he's an adult. The book Post Office or the book Women. But this one, as he sort of encapsulates that feeling like you're getting watched, or feeling like you're getting sized up constantly, especially with all the physical fights. It's incredible. It really hit on what it's like growing up as a young man. I mean, this is obviously in a different time. It is rougher. There's allusions to stuff going on with World War II and his German upbringing. His family being from immigrants, and it's just incredible. It's not difficult to read. It is the difficulty might come from not the way that the sentence structure is, or following the action or anything like that. Any of the difficulty is just going to come because he's just an honest writer, and he'll just write what he was thinking. He'll talk about going through being prepubescent and like becoming interested in girls, and like looking at his teachers differently, and like looking at them and seeing like, oh well, I couldn't stop staring at how she hiked her skirt up. So there's definitely like that stuff I could see making people uncomfortable, but like I said, it's honest. And like if he's going to talk about what it's like growing up as a young man, that's part of what happens to us, when the hormones are out of control, and like wanting to be perceived as tough, and like you're getting sized up constantly. And yeah, it's a very honest portrayal of what that is. And it's I definitely don't see this hitting for a lot of people, but I would definitely recommend for anybody that's just interested in like outsider art or unusual people. Like I don't know, there's no other reason for me to make this connection, but there's a character called Crumb who was like a comic book artist. They made a documentary about him. That is an unusual guy. And there's something about that weird counterculture icon that's really like, I find that concept really attractive. The like we did Jodorowsky's Dune. That's a guy that's on the fringes of art, the fringes of being a creator. And Charles Bukowski is there. And you would put him there and he wouldn't even like think it's cool. He'd just be like, okay. So there's something really cool about that. So yeah, guys, I mean, this is a 5 out of 5. It's not super long. It's very interesting. There's some twists and turns. There's not really a huge plot other than, hey, this is what growing up is like. Check it out. And if you are familiar with his work already, because this is my favorite, I think, of Charles Bukowski's work, but his books are all pretty great. I think at some point what I'll do is maybe a little like video essay, because I've always wanted to do something like that, just to kind of keep the creative juices flowing, making some more content, putting stuff out there. And Bukowski is a figure for sure. So yeah, go into it knowing that that's what it's going to be. It's very male charged. I think that's a very good way of explaining it. I don't think ladies are going to enjoy this as much as as guys are gonna. I think it hits certain notes for us. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong on that. But on that note, yeah, guys, this is amazing. Check it out. I'm gonna probably keep going through his books and seeing what else comes up. On that note, I think I'll get out of here, and pretty short video today, I guess. But you guys have a wonderful day. We're gonna be back at you with a Clockwork Orange. Bye, guys.